Partio here. Hope you're all well on this Wednesday. Before we start today, I just want to give a little shout out to one of our fellow subscribers to the channel and a personal friend. Well, my good friend Gary, unfortunately at the moment he's in hospital. He's not feeling too good, so I'd like to wish Gary a full recovery. I have texted him today and he seems in good fettle. So get well soon, Gaz, and you can watch plenty of shows, keep you occupied. So just keep watching and get well soon, mate. Okay. Today we have got Marathon Wednesday, of course, and it is a viewer's request, and this one is for Alan Joyce, who's a great supporter of the channel. He's always on the live stream, regardless of where he is. I think the last couple of weeks he's been in his local takeaway or restaurant, Indian restaurant, which is pretty cool. So today we're going to do Killing Joke for him. Killing Joke, a band that I've sort of know about. I haven't got too much of their stuff. I was sort of into them when they first come out, and then they went a bit bizarre and I went off them, but I'm sort of reconnected with this band now with their later stuff. The album that really killed it off for me is actually my number 15. So that'll be interesting because they've had 15 albums. They were formed in 1979 by Jazz Coleman on vocals and keyboards, Paul Ferguson on the drums, Geordie Walker on the guitar, and Youth on bass. Who's all told, when we get down to it, I will tell you his real name. Now, the band's musical style emerged from that post-punk era, of course, and they've been cited as a key influence on the industrial rock scene. They've influenced quite a few bands and artists like Metallica and Nirvana, 9 Inch Nails, Soundgarden. I think Jazz and Geordie have been sort of the main members. They've had quite a few people in the band, but the current lineup is the original lineup. It's amazing, you know, when you get them originals back together, it always seems to work in most circumstances. So we've got 15 albums to go through today, so we're going to delve into some Killing Joke, all for Alan. So coming in at number 15 then, we have the 4th album, released in 1983, and it is called Fire Dances. It was the first album that featured the new bass player Paul Raven. So on here we've got Jazz Coleman, Kevin, Geordie Walker, Paul Raven and Paul Ferguson on the drums. So the first track on the album is called The Gathering. Do like the drums on this. Paul Ferguson is a really good drummer. He's got that, a lot of the Killing Joke drums is rolling sort of drums. But the rest of the album lacks a little bit of punch. It's a little bit weak, in my opinion. Fun and games. We can only hear the drums on this. In the Gathering, but the vocals don't come through very strong. Now Jazz has got good vocals, but it doesn't come through on this. Regeneration is one of the songs I don't particularly like. It's got no melodic rhythm, it's just a bit of a crash bang wallop in places. Frenzy, again, this is a very disjointed track. The guitars and drums don't sort of connect. Although the riffs are interesting, they just don't seem to be very coherent on that track. Harlequin. Instead of being a band, it sounds like we've got 4 musicians doing their own thing, and it doesn't really do much for me. Feast of Blaze, this one isn't too bad. At least they're all on the same page musically on that one. It's not too bad. Song and Dance, good track. Like this one, some great guitar riffs from Geordie. Pretty cool track. Then we get Dominator. Now this is my favourite track. I love the bass line from Paul Ravens on this. Really strong vocal, and a great vocal from Yaz or Jazz. I don't know how he pronounces his name. Could be Yaz, could be Jazz. But it's really good. Let's all go to the Fire Dancers. Again, love this track. Great solid riffs, great vocal as usual, really good. Then Lust Almighty, not too bad. The vocals are a little bit off kilter with the rest of the song, but it's still a sort of listenable song. I think this album's definitely an album of two halves. Side 1 is a little bit weak and a little bit all over the place, but side 2, which is from the Feast of Blaze to Lust Almighty, is excellent. Much better tracks. I enjoy side 2 of this one much better. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 4.5. Okay, then coming in at number 14, we got to the 11th album now, released in 2013, and it's called Killing Joke, or also known as Killing Joke 2013. It was their first album since 1996, and on here we have got Yaz. I'm going to call him Jazz. If I've got it wrong, someone correct me. Jazz Coleman on vocals and synthesizers, Kevin Geordie Walker on guitars and bass, and Martin Youth Glover on bass as well. Paul Raven on the bass guitar, and this featured on guest drums Mr. David Grohl from Nirvana and Foo Fighters, and some additional guitar feedback from Andy Gill, and Katie Summer does some voice. So the first track on this one's called The Death and Resurrection Show. Great opening. Like this. Dave Grohl's drumming on this is great. On the whole album is pretty good. Good track. Total Invasion. This is really heavy. But instead of Jazz singing, he's shouting, and you know me and shouting lyrics, I don't like them. But the drumming again from Dave is top drawer stuff. Asteroid, this is almost thrash metal. 100 miles an hour, full of energy, not a bad track. Implant, this is a cross between punk and heavy metal. Again, some great drumming from Dave Grohl. Blood on Your Hands, my favourite track on this album. I love that chunky riff. I don't know who does the bass line, but it's absolutely amazing. Good track, that's why I like it. I love great bass lines. Loose Cannon, lots of shouty vocals, and it sort of ruins it. You'll Never Get to Me. Again, we got some nice drums. The vocals are a little bit shouty, but it doesn't sort of spoil that one. Seeing Red, good vocal from Jazz on this one. Pretty solid track. Dark Forces, I love this dramatic start with the orchestra, one of the better tracks on this album, and a very good vocal from Jazz. Pretty good. The House That Pain Built, musically I like this. It's great drumming, some great riffs, but why is Jazz shouting again? I just don't get that. I like this album musically, it's really good, and Dave Grohl really adds to this on the drums. I don't know why Jazz has started shouting. He just doesn't need to. He's got a unique voice in itself. He's got that lovely gravelly voice, and it doesn't need to track. It sort of spoils some of the tracks, but I'm going to still give this an RTO ranking of 6 out of 10 because musically it is pretty good. Okay, then coming in at number 13, go to the 8th album now, released in 1990. and it's called Extremities, Dirt and Various Repressed Emotions. This album was the one after a commercial failure album, which we'll talk about later. It was Outside the Gate. So Jazz and Geordie were the last remaining of that part of the band. So they recruited new musicians, and away they went again. So on this one we've got Jazz Coleman on the vocals and keyboards, Kevin Geordie Walker on guitars, Paul Ravens on the bass, Dave Ball also does a bit of bass, Martin Atkins is on drums, we've got John Betchell on programming and sampling, which always alarms me, and Dave Kovacic on synthesizer. First track on this one is called Money Is Not Our God. This is a weird start, but the bass line from Paul Raven is excellent. Some great drumming from Martin Atkins. Lots of coughing and talking, but it's a solid track. I don't know if someone had a cold or anything, but it's a bit weird. Age Agreed. Again, a weird start. It starts off like for selling beef in America. But it's got a good riff and it's a pretty good track. I like that track. The Beautiful Dead. Another strange track. There's sort of like a prayer in it, and then the rest of the band comes in, and it sounds like it's been recorded from inside a bath. So the production on it's not very good, and it's quite a weird track. Extremities. When I was listening to this, it reminded me of another band that I don't know too much about, and that's Chrome. This does sound a little bit like Chrome in places. It's got some bizarre riffs and noises and all sorts, but it's not bad, and you even get a bit of piano. It gives it a little bit of culture. It's an interesting track. Intravenous, one of my favourite tracks on this album. Some great riffs. Jazz sounds great on the vocals. It's a well produced track, excellent track. Inside the Termite Mound. Again, some interesting track. I do like the arrangement. The drums I sound a bit hollow on this. It needs a little bit of beef behind them. Next track is Solitude, a track that I really like, my favourite, because it's got that Mystique start. I love the Mystique East sound there. It's a really good song. The drums sound a lot better on that track. North of the Border, it's not too bad. It's a listenable track, got a good riff in it. There's nothing wrong with that. Slipstream. Very weird lyrics. Production's good in places, and some places it isn't. It's not very coherent for me. Then we have this Cagiligia. Short track with lots of mystique and atmosphere. I don't mind that at all. Struggle. A good track spoilt by the bad production. This album is really good, but what lets it down in places is some of the production. It doesn't seem to be coherent. Some of it sounds like it's recorded in a studio. Some of it sounds like it's recorded in the bath or in a little room. The continuity of the production really lets the album down. So I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 6.5. Okay then, coming in at number 12, we've got the third album, released in 1982, Revelations. It was the last album that featured the original lineup until the band's reunion in 2010. So we have got Jazz Coleman, Kevin Geordie Walker, Martin Youth Glover and Paul Ferguson. First track on here is called The Hum. Always like this opening riff. It's a bit eerie. Paul Ferguson's drumming's awesome on this. Really good track. Empire Song, again we have a great opening riff from Mr. Walker. I like it that the vocals sound like they've been done on a little tape recorder. They've sort of just added Jazz's vocals as an afterthought. Very clever how they've done that. We have Joy. This is the proper post-punk song. Vocal production sounds great. It's a really, really good track. Chop Chop is the next one. Paul Ferguson's drums, brilliant. The production is pretty good. It's just got that rawness to it. The Pandies are coming. Yeah. Probably one of the worst things I ever heard. This is when I sort of thought, what's going on here? This is not what I expected from after the first 2 albums, and I find this a little bit of a dirge. There's nothing there that really lightens me up. Then we get a track called Chapter 3. It's a weird and wonderful track, as I like calling them. Lots of noises and background stuff. It really all comes together. It's a really good track. Have a Nice Day, not my cup of tea. They're all doing their own thing on this. Land of Milk and Honey, this is classic Killing Joke. The drumming's great bass line from Mr. Martin Youth Glover, excellent track. Good Samaritan. Again, the production, the vocals are a little bit off. It sounds like it's on a tape recorder in this one. It doesn't sound right. Dregs, good track. Best one on the album. Love the bass line. Some great guitar riffs. Everything perfect on this one. Again, it's a good album, but the production seems like they changed their mind halfway through the recording. Oh, we'll try this instead. You know, you're 3 albums and you should be experimenting when you're trying to establish yourself. And some's good, some's bad. It's a good, not a bad little album though. And I'm going to give this an RTO, a ranking of 6.8. Okay, then coming at number 11, we got a 1981 now for the second album. What's This For? So this one is, of course, Yaz, Kevin, Martin and Paul. First track's called The Fall Of Because. Interesting beat. Great little bit of drum there from Paul. It's a good little track actually. Tension. I like this. It reminds me to the start of My Sharona by the Knack. Pretty good track. Then we get Unspeakable. This reminds me again of something that sounds like Adam and the Ants in places. The drumming on this is terrific, and yet, Jazz's vocal is pretty cool on this. Then we get Butcher. Love the bass line on this one, and the synthesizer and effects really do add to this track. Really gives it a little bit of depth. Really good. Follow the Leaders. Some more great drumming from Paul Ferguson. He really gels this track together. The guitar's got a bit of a Celtic sound to it. Really strong track. Next track, Madness. My favourite track. One of my favourite tracks by Killing Joke actually. The drums are really good. The bass line drives the song along. And I like the background vocal. It's the vocal, but it's in the background, and there's just something about this track that's really good. Next track is called Who Told You How. These drums are so Ant music by Adam and the Ants. Now, I expect Adam Ant to start singing on this. It's a really good track. Then we get Exit, one of my favourite tracks on the album. Although the vocals are not clear, it sort of adds to the track. It sounds like he's singing into a paper bag. So quite an interesting effect. Another mixed bag of songs on this. The drumming's really good. It's very prominent on this album, so I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 7 out of 10. Right, just going to sip of coffee. That's better. Right, coming in at number 11 then, we have the 7th album, released in 1988. It's Outside the Gate. Now this wasn't a very good, it was commercially a flop, but it was just, they changed their direction a little bit. Also there was tensions in the band. It's that album, Everything Falls Apart. Paul Ferguson was dismissed at the beginning of the sessions, and they replaced by a studio musician. Paul Raven took part in the recording, but ultimately asked not to his name to be put on the credits for it after a major disagreement. It was all going on in this album. So on here we've got Yaz Coleman on the vocals, Geordie Walker on guitar. Paul Raven is actually on the bass, but he's uncredited. So we got Jimmy Copley comes in and helps on the drums. Jeff Scattlebury does as well on some percussion. The first track is called America. I really like this song. I love the keyboards on it, and it is a great bass line from Paul Raven. I just don't know why I don't want to be uncredited for it. Okay, he had a bit of a handbags at dawn, but you know, you're on there playing, take the credit, because you did some good work on that track. My Love of This Land. This really sounds like an Ultravox sound at this time. Probably that's why I like it. It's got the keyboards are really good in that. Stay One Jump Ahead. Bit weird. It's not, doesn't sit anywhere. It's not new wave. It's not punk. It's just a weird track. Unto the Ends of the Earth. Interesting song. Again, Paul Raven's bass line is superb. Love Jazz's vocals on this. Excellent. Then we get the Call In. My favourite track on here. It's quirky, nice riffs, and the keyboard really does add to this track. Then we have a track called Obsession, and this track is pants. It's awful. Probably in one of the worst tracks they ever did. It just doesn't mean anything. Then we get a track called Tia Hukanako. This is a totally different departure for this band. Nothing post-punk about it. It's just a nice gentle track with weird bits in it, and it's really good. Then we get the title track, Outside the Gate. I think this is, again, it is a bad track. They tried to come into the 80s and failed miserably. All them horrible, awful sounds on it from the 80s. Bad production, you name it, it's on it. Not the best way to end an album. Okay, this is the one that was a bit of a commercial flop, but I think there's some really interesting stuff on this, and I don't think it was as bad as what people think. And I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 7.5. Okay then, coming in at number 9, we have the 14th album, released in 2012. And it's 2012, but in Roman numerals, so it's MMXII. On here we have got the original lineup, which is Jazz, Kevin, Martin, Youth Glover, and Paul Ferguson. Pole Shift, love this track. The opening is just terrific. Great opening to the song with keyboards, atmosphere, and a great vocal from Jazz on this. Fantastic. Then we get FEMA Camp. The added value of the synthesizer and keyboards of this gives this track that extra depth, making it from a mediocre track to a really good track. And Rapture, yeah, the vocals sound like that he's not even in the same building recording them, and the the riff on this one is a little bit too repetitive. You get, oh, I hope this track ends. And I'm glad it's only 4 minutes long, because the riff does get on your nerves a little bit. Colony a Collapse, really good track. At least Yaz is in the same room as everyone else to record the vocals on this. It's a really good track. Corporate Elect, just classic Killing Joke sound, just brought up to date. Great vocals and some great drumming. In Cytherea, this is quite mellow for the band. It's a cross between the Police and the Smiths. It's my favourite track. I like the different tracks that Killing Joke have tried, and a lot of them work and some don't, but in this case this really worked. It's a really good track. Primobile, or Primobile, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that one. Another really good track, really melodic. Love the use of the keyboards on this. And the bells as well, there's bells on this. It really adds a little bit of atmosphere. Very good track. Glitch. I love the track, but I don't understand the lyrics at all. But it's a really good track. Trance. Very, very good track. Jazz's vocal is superb on that. Just got that voice, hasn't he? And the last track, All Hallows Eve. Very catchy, great drums from Paul Ferguson. Really good way to go out on this album. Don't mind this album at all. It's one that I hadn't listened to, and I thought, oh, they sound a lot better. You can tell that it's the original lineup. They've just taken their experiences from previous albums, put them to good use, and they've made a really solid album here. And I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.7. Okay, then coming in at number 8, we have the 10th album, released in 1996. It is called Democracy. On here it's another, they hadn't got a drummer as such, but they've got someone to come in and do it. We've got Yaz Coleman, Kevin Walker, Martin Glover. On drums on this is Jeff Dungmore, and we've got Nikki Hollywell Walker doing additional synthesizer. First track on this album is called Savage Freedom. One of my favourites. Although Jazz's vocals are a little bit screechy, but unique. Martin Glover's bass line, though, is brilliant. Title track's named Democracy. A little bit of bass on here, not bad at all. Prozac People, bass line for Martin is brilliant. Got some lovely guitar work from Kevin going on that. Excellent track. Lanterns. Now this is a really nice track. This is the gentle side of Killing Joke, I think. Very melodic. Nice arrangement, and quite quirky as well. Then we get Iain. This is one of the most commercial tracks I've ever heard Killing Joke do, but it's really good. Sometimes when you do a bit of make a single, it either works or it doesn't, but this really works. It's quite a long track as well, and I really enjoy that one. Pilgrimage. Again, very radio friendly, catchy tunes and great drumming from this Jeff Dungmore. Really good. Then we get Intellect. Interesting track. It's got this reminds me of sort of Oasis sort of sound. Really good. Medicine Wheel. Modern day post-punk. It's my favourite track on the album. I love it. Great track. Lots of energy. Absent Friends. This sounds like heavy metal Big Country. It's excellent. Great guitars. Another Bloody Election. It's okay. Shouty vocals though. Very solid album. Very heavy in places. Probably one of their heaviest albums. It's a really good listen. and I'm going to give this one an RTO ranking of 7.9. Okay then, coming in at number 7 we have the 7th album, well, no, sorry, the 12th album, released in the year 2006, Hosannas from the Basements of Hell. On here we have got Jazz Coleman, Kevin Geordie Walker, Paul Raven, different drummer, Benny Calvert. I've had quite a few drummers, a bit of a Spinal Tap drummer thing here going on. And then additional personnel, we've got the Tashkent strings and Ronnie Barak on percussion. First track on here is called This Tribal Antidote. As I said, this is definitely 21st century post-punk rock. Really good drumming from this Benny Calvert, really adds to the track, really good. Then we have the title track, Hosannas from the Basements of Hell. What a title. It's a bit bizarre, but I don't know if they toned everything down, because the mixing the drums and the guitars don't actually cohere each other, but it makes for an interesting sound. Then we get my favourite track called Invocation. It's got that mystique feel to it, that keyboards through the track. Even the weird and wonderful jazz vocal on it really adds to it, really good. Then we get Implosion, good rock track. Really driving beats from both Benny and Paul on the bass. Really drives this song. Love that song. Then we get Majestic. Again, it's a really good track, but the mix is terrible. The guitars like they're being played over the hills and far away. The drums are too overpowering. You can't hear anything but the drums. Walking with the Gods, quirky drum beat. The little keyboards does really add to this. Again, an interesting vocal performance from Jazz, but it really does work. Then the Lightbringer. This is quite a little epic. We've got that great drum bass going on well together. This sounds better under headphones, because you get a really, that engine room, you can hear it working well. Excellent track. Judas Go. So the music sounds good, but the vocal mix is a little bit naff. Gratitude, quite a melodic start. Like this one a lot. It's got quite a mood to this one, really strong track, like that. Last track on the album. This is another enjoyable album. It's got some really strong tracks on here. The bass and drum are the highlight of this. They work so well together. Some of the vocal mixing lacks something, but doesn't spoil much of this album. I think it's a really strong album, and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8 out of 10. Okay then, coming in at number 6, we have got the 6th album from 1986. All the 6s here. The 6 from number 6, the 6th album from 86, and it's called Brighter Than a Thousand Suns. Near enough the original lineup here. We've got Yaz Coleman, Kevin Geordie Walker, Paul Raven and Paul Ferguson on the drums. First track is called Adoration. Typical start to a Killing Joke album. That great drum from Paul. In comes Geordie with his great riffs and a fine performance on the vocals from Mr. Coleman. Sanity. Love the keyboards on this. It reminds me of the Pet Shop Boys in places, believe it or not. It's a nice track and quite quirky. Chessboards. Paul Raven's bass line. Absolutely brilliant. It really drives the song along, and everyone sort of hooks onto that bass line and adds their bits to it. Really strong track. Twilight of the Mortal. Quirky track. I do like the keyboards in this. Just really puts something into this and really gives it that extra depth. Love the Masses. This is nothing that you expect on this album. It's very 80s pop, and guess what? I don't like it. A Southern Sky though is a brilliant track. It's very, how do I put this? It's very Tears for Fears, but it's absolutely brilliant. A little bit different for the band, and this one absolutely worked. Victory. I love this track. I love that funky bass line. This is funk post-punk. It's really good. Then we get a track called Winter Gardens. And I love the beginning of this. The bass line and the guitars are really nice. Sort of sets the song up. And then we get Rubicon. Great work from Geordie on the guitar. Paul Raven's bass is terrific. Fine vocal performance as well. Big surprise when I put this album on. It's very 80s pop and rock. I like it. I was very shocked. People, a lot of diehard fans might think, what's he thinking? But I'd never heard this album, so I liked it, and I give this an RTO ranking of 8.2. Okay, then coming in at number 5, got the 5th album, released in 1985. It's called Nighttime. Jazz Coleman, Kevin Geordie Walker, Paul Raven and Paul Ferguson. First track is the title track, Nighttime. More classic Paul Ferguson drumming. More interesting vocal from Jazz. And as ever, solid work from Paul Raven and Kevin Walker. Darkness Before Dawn. Got a really weird, bizarre vocal at the beginning, but it really adds atmosphere to this track. Love the keyboards in this, and another fantastic bass line from Paul Raven. Love Like Blood. Again, it's driven by Paul Raven's bass line. Great riffs again. Keyboard does add a lot to that one. Kings and Queens. Again, it's just the keyboard solo is really good, crisp and eerie. Great track. Tazaban. This sort of goes back to the roots of post-punk. The guitars sound great on this. Really solid track. Multitudes. Got a bit of a poppy feel to it, but it's still a nice little track. Europe. Favourite track. I do like the riff, very catchy riff, and add a great bass line into it. You have got a really strong song. 80s. Now there's a certain grunge band from the 90s, and when you hear the opening riff of this, you go, it's the same riff. So this band, which I'm not going to mention, probably ripped off this riff from Killing Joke. I like the track though, but it's a someone actually ripped it off, and a big grunge band. But then again, they were sort of influenced by this band, so I sort of get it, but don't completely rip it off. But there you go. It's a good riff though. If you hear, if you hear it, go and listen to it, and you'll know exactly which song it is. Great album. Probably one of the best ones from their early part of the career. Great production on this. I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.3. Okay, then coming in at number 4, we have the debut album from 1980. And it's just called Killing Joke. So we've got Jazz, Kevin, Martin and Paul on this. First track is called Requiem. So 1980s, but I love it. Great riffs. It's that post-punk sound, which is terrific. Good track. War Dance. I love Paul Ferguson's drumming on this. Really drives the song along, and Jazz's vocal is always brilliant, especially on that one. Tomorrow's World really takes me back to, I mean, I remember hearing this track when it come out, and oh wow, these are really fresh and a little bit different from everything else. The guitar work from Geordie is brilliant on that. Sport, very 80s sounding, but who cares, it's just a great track. Then we get The Wait, not a particular favourite of mine, it's just one of them tracks I don't really like. Complications, just plug in and go track here. The bass from Mr. Glover is absolutely on fire. Great vocal from Jazz. Then we get SO36, a little bit too long. I sort of lose interest really after about 4 minutes. The best bit of the song is the first 4 minutes, and the rest of it is just not very good. Then we get Primitive. The first time I heard this blew me away, and I heard this not long after it come out, and I thought, wow, this is really good. It's my favourite song on the album. It's one of my favourite songs by the band. Great bass line from Martin, terrific. Great album. I think this is always forgotten about. There's some excellent tracks on here. I love the rawness. I think that's why I've rated it so high, because it's just raw, and a great raw post-punk album. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.5. Okay, then, coming in at number 3. We go to the 9th album, released in 1994, and it's called Pandemonium. This album marks Killing Joke's return after taking a 4-year hiatus, and it's the longest the band have taken to since they founded to make an album. It also featured the return of founding member Martin Youth Glover. So we've got Jazz Coleman on the vocals and synthesizers, Kevin Geordie Walker on guitar, Martin Youth Glover, and drumming is taken up by Jeff Dungmore again. Tom Larkin drums on this. They have a host of drummers on this: Larry Dezote, Hassam Ramsey, Saeed El Artist, and we've got Abdul Ali Al on violin. First track is the title track, Pandemonium. Love this track. Great to hear Martin Glover back on the bass, booming. Great vocal from Jazz as well. Terrific track. Exorcism, great track. That rolling drum. I don't know who does the drums on this, but it really does great. It's what you expect from that drum sort of sound that you get from the Killing Joke. One of Jazz's fine weird vocals. It's great. Millennium got more of a metal riff from here. Geordie really goes heavy metal on this. Love the guitar work from him. Brilliant. Then we get Communion. This is my favourite track. Starts very eerie keyboard, and then you get that lovely guitar riffs from Geordie. So moving track, really strong track. Black Moon, a track with lots of atmosphere. Jazz's vocal is really eerie and he really expresses himself on this track. Even the shouty bit really is. There's a lot of emotion in this, and they've got the production absolutely right on that. Absolutely good. Labyrinth. I actually love the keyboard programming on this. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it really adds to the track. If it weren't for that, this would be quite ordinary, but the programming of the keyboards really adds to that track. Then we get a track called Iain. You can certainly hear Martin Glover's bass line on this. You know, he's just got this knack of really adding to a track. Here's your bass, give us a nice riff, and he does. And Jazz's vocals are fantastic on that as well. White Out. The introduction of a modern keyboard sounds like, and a drum machine on this. I didn't think I'd like this, but I was shocked. I do. I think it adds to the track, gives them a little bit more dimension. So there's nothing wrong with that one. Then we get Pleasures of the Flesh. I think this is one of the weak tracks on the album. I'm not a great fan of this. Bit of a filler there. Then the Mathematics of Chaos. Again, it's a song that I shouldn't really like because it's got shouty vocals on it. But it just fits with the song. And the expressions of the song and the deliverance of the song is fantastic. Really, really good. I think this is a really good album. There's only one bad track on it, but the rest of it is brilliant. I was so shocked. But I really like it now. And I'm going to give this an RTO ranking of 8.6. Okay then, coming in at number 2. Got the 13th album, released in 2010. And it's Absolute Dissent, and this is the first album in 28 years to feature the band's original lineup. So it's Jazz Coleman, Kevin Geordie Walker, of course, Martin Youth Glover, and the return of the mighty Paul Ferguson. First track on here is the title track, Absolute Dissent. I love how it goes straight into it. Bang! Got the original lineup, and they come back with a great track. Excellent track. The Great Cull, one of the Kevin's great opening riffs, Martin's solid bass, followed by Paul's drumming, in comes Jazz on the vocals. Killing Joke is back. Fresh Fever from the Skies, solid track. There's some awesome drumming on this from Paul. In Excelsis, again, classic riffing from Geordie. This is Killing Joke of old. Great stuff. European Superstate. Love the start of this. That keyboard and drums, amazing. It sounds something like you'd expect from Sparks. It's a super track. There's just something about it. The World is Hell. Thumping bass line from Mr. Glover. You get this squeaky little guitar riff from Kevin. Brilliant track. Endgame. Again, some great bass on this. Really drives this song. Martin Glover is the best bass player in Killing Joke, without a doubt. The Raven King. Now this is my second favourite track on this album. Again, it's driven by the Martin's bass line. Fantastic vocal from Jazz. Very strong vocal still. Honour with Fire. Probably one of the weaker tracks on here. There's a little bit of shouty on here. You know, he puts a great performance in on the Raven King and then he starts shouting. I don't get it sometimes. Depth Charge. Paul Ferguson's drumming. Brilliant. It's everything you're going to expect from him. I do love his style of drumming because it's that rolling drums I really like. Very, very good. And then we get Here Comes the Singularity. Solid track. There's nothing wrong with this one, and I think Killing Joke sound as good as they did on that debut album. Then we get a track called Ghost of Ladbroke Grove. The bass line is terrific. It's very moving. Now, I'm not quite sure about what this song is actually about. Is it something to do with the Ladbroke Grove train? There's little bits that it may think it is. I mean, I looked. The beauty of Spotify is you can put on there's a little microphone so you can bring up the lyrics. And when I was listening to this, I wanted to really listen to it, and I don't know if I've interpreted it is about Ladbroke Grove train disaster. It's quite a moving song, really moving. Really good way to end the album as well. It sort of gives you some thoughts. What a comeback album for the original lineup. Amazing album. It's just very fresh, and I love it. I mean, it's in my library now. I think it's just an amazing album. So I'm going to give it an RTO ranking of 8.8. Okay, my number one. Now this will shock a lot of people, I think. It is actually the most current album, the 15th, that was released in 2015, and it's called Pylon. So we've got the classic lineup of Jazz, Kevin, Martin and Paul. First track is called Autonomous Zone. This has got bass programmer in it, and it's just amazing. I've never heard anything so industrial, heavy at the same time. It is brilliant. And then you get this great riff from Geordie Walker, and you get Paul coming on with his drums. It's just amazing. I love it. Really strong track. Dawn of the Hive, great track again. Some great driving riffs, and Jazzy's vocal is superb. He's still got a really strong voice. Excellent track. And then we get New Cold War. Again, a great opening riff from Kevin Walker, Geordie Walker. He's still a great guitarist. Paul's drumming is as good as ever. Really strong track. Euphoria, brilliant track. That keyboard adds that extra depth to it. Great little rocker. New Jerusalem. They've got everything spot on. The production, that gravelly voice from Jazz. I don't know what they did for this album, but it sounds amazing. War on Freedom, a great bass line from Martin Glover. The driving riffs of Geordie. That little bit of background keyboard just gives it extra depth. Although, another good vocal from Jazz. Big Buzz, brilliant. The production on this, they've really got it right. Everyone sounds brilliant on this. Then we get Delete. More great riffing. Paul's drumming just rolls that rolly drum sound. Brilliant. Then we get I Am the Virus. Heavy metal in places and absolute killer track. Then the last track is my favourite track, Into the Unknown. Unbelievable driving riffs. The bass line is just drives the song, and you got some great guitar work on here from Geordie. Absolutely belting track. This is my number one because I think this is the best thing they've ever done. I know I'm not the greatest Killing Joke fan, but everything was right. They're all solid songs. There is not a bad track on this. They actually got the production perfect on every song. They have struggled over the years getting that mixed drop, but on this one everything's come together. I hope we get another album from them, because it's not very often I have an album, the very current album, as my favourite album. I don't think it's ever happened. If it has, someone remind me, because when you've done 500 of these or more, you do forget what you've put. But I think this is a terrific album. I play this one a lot. Since I heard it, which first time I heard it was probably about 6-7 weeks ago, and I play this quite a lot. and I'm going to give this an RTO ranking 9 out of 10. So there we go, Alan Joyce. Be interested in what you think of what I've done. You always give some great feedback on when I do ones for you, so I'm looking forward to hearing from that. So that's all today. As it's a Marathon Wednesday, I only do the one because it takes a little while to edit and all that sort of thing. But I'll be back tomorrow, and it's Thursday, so we've got a battle of the debuts. I'm going to go to two progressive bands that sort of went in totally different directions, and we're going to look at the battle between Genesis and Renaissance. And we've got an album artwork tomorrow, and we're looking at the progressive rock band, so it's a very prog day tomorrow. Arena, looking at their album covers, including the new album cover, which the album comes out very, very soon, which we will be reviewing, of course. And also tomorrow being Thursday, 8 PM British Summertime, live stream. So join me for that. So have a great day, everyone. I will see you tomorrow. Don't forget, if you like, give me a little thumbs up. If you like the channel, subscribe, and go and check out the community page, because there's lots of stuff from the vaults that I'll keep putting up on there. Okay then, have a great day, everyone, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye for now.